So in this video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to rebuild some broken parts of this giant buck that a friend of mine's dad shot. I do have some trail camera pictures and a trail camera video to kind of reference what used to be there. There was an abnormal point that came out like this across the front. I'll put a picture of it right now. And then also, it's a really cool flyer tying back here. But it also had another second beam coming out here with a point there and a point somewhere in between there and the end of that beam. So I'm going to rebuild that as well. And here's a short video of that buck when it was alive. Really impressive deer. I'm going to start by drilling a 5/32 hole in the broken area where this one came across the front. And then I'm also going to drill one in here to continue this beam coming out. And also I'm going to drill one down so that I can fabricate a point off of that. I'm a real estate broker. I don't steal signs from the ditches, so don't go out and steal signs, people. That's really rude. But we have some that get bent over by snow plows and things. They've got these little notches in there. I'm trying to zoom in so you can see that. It must be where when they run them through the machine, it grips them or whatever. I like to have a little bit of grip on there. I think that adds strength to the adhesive when you get them, glued into the hole. Got my drill ready to go. So you don't need to watch me drill holes, but I'm going to do that one there, one in here, and one coming down like that. So I've got all three holes drilled. I've got the wire set pretty much how I think it needs to be for shaping the broken off antler areas. This one here I put a little tape on to hold it, but I actually used an area on the wire. It worked out pretty good where the wires intersect. And fabricated the second beam and used it as the G3 on that beam, actually where the intersection came off of. Bent it how I think the tine should be. This one's going to be turned up about like so. I've drilled these holes they're about an inch deep, maybe an inch and a quarter deep. I feel that's far enough to get down in there and get the glue to make an adequate amount of contact. I'll be using this Gorilla Glue, and first I'll get as much glue work down into that hole as I can, and I'll dip the rod in water and then roll it around in there and get it to set. And I might have to tape this upper one too to keep it from rotating down like this. I kind of want it to be just like that. And I did set it too, so it's got a curl in. Kind of matches the other one I might actually put a little bit more curl on the top of that. I use a smaller screwdriver, something smaller than the diameter of that hole, to get that glue to work down in there. Otherwise, when you just push the rod in on top of that glue, the air just kind of pushes, there's no space, and it kind of just pushes the glue right back up out of there. So I try to do a really good job of working that glue in and around the hole before I run the rod down in there. All right, so I've let that glue set up for about a day. Now before I start molding and shaping the putty and putting it on here, I'm gonna try and scratch and score the damaged area here. I'll even drill a few small holes in there so that I can get little pockets that the epoxy will set into, and it helps just strengthen and hold everything together. If this gets, picked up or wiggled on, the more little pockets and angles that I've got that epoxy going into the broken part of the antler, the better and the stronger it's going to be for bonding. Now you can see I've drilled little divots here and there, different angles. I use a real big drill bit and then use a knife to scratch and score. Try to get all the dirt and debris out of there. Did the same down here. Scratched off any excess glue that came around the reinforcement wire there. I didn't mention earlier that I laid this rack on a heat register for 2 or 3 weeks to make sure that the antlers are as dry as they can be. And the reason for that is this Quickwood. This is what I'm going to use for rebuilding the broken parts. But this putty, epoxy putty, does not shrink. If these aren't dry, and they still may shrink some over time a little bit, the more this shrinks, the more likely you are to get cracks where the epoxy putty meets the antler. So I wanted to make sure I get them as dry as I could for now. so that we just don't have these hairline cracks show up. And again, it could happen over years of time, but it's just a good idea to try and dry it out as much as you can before you get started on doing something like this. But I have found that you have to knead this stuff together very, very well, and it helps to consistently just get your fingers wet or the putty wet just a little bit. It's just way more pliable if there's a little bit of moisture mixed in there with it. I'm just doing a small piece right now just to kind of show you that it has to be mixed together very well. If you don't get it mixed together completely, you'll get soft spots and hard spots in there after it dries. It's just not as strong as it should be. All right, so here's what it looks like with the first abnormal point rebuilt. I've been sculpting for about a half an hour here. Got a little bit left over. Better to have too much and some left over than not enough to finish, because it's really hard to add in once you've got this stuff kind of already setting up. It gives you time. I think you probably have close to an hour to work with it. After about 30 minutes, it's starting to get kind of firm, and I like that when it's starting to set a little bit. Then it doesn't move around as much. You can work on some of the finer details. Like this, I like to use a paintbrush and just work in some of the little pockets and crevices and things on there to give it more of a natural look. I'll throw up a picture in the corner here to show what I used. I've looked at my phone probably 100 times trying to get this one to be as realistic as it probably was originally. Now, it is recommended that you wear protective gloves when handling this material. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I live on the wild side and take my chances with it. I guess it's up to you to decide whether you want to glove up or raw dog it when handling your quickwood. Sorry, I just had to. As I said before, I make sure to thoroughly mix the two components of the quickwood together to be sure that it hardens evenly. I just keep adding more and shaping it until it's as close to the right size and shape as I think it should be. This definitely takes some practice, and I would recommend first trying it on an old antler shed or some buck other than your prize trophy. My favorite tool for adding grooves is the handle of a small wooden paintbrush. It has a rounded end on it, and I spin it as I etch the grooves. Once I had it set up for a day or two, I decided that a few areas just weren't quite thick enough, so I drilled some holes so that any newly added quickwood would be more likely to adhere to what was already there. Once the quickwood is set up, there is usually some detail work required by sanding. There's a number of ways to add color back to the rebuilt portions. Sometimes the color of the quickwood is close enough to being a base color, and if you're not that fussy, you can just add some burnt umber paint or a walnut colored stain. I found that painting the entire rebuilt area with a base color that matches the lightest portions of the antler in other areas, then coming back with darker layers works best. I am using acrylic paints here, and you can get these paints at Walmart or Hobby Lobby. Now this is where you really get to showcase what artistic talents you may have. I like to blotch spots on first with a rag to create some inconsistent dark areas. Then I come back and paint lines in different layers, trying to match the rebuilt area as close as I can to what the original areas look like. The nice thing about using latex paint is you can always come back and scuff off what you don't like, or keep adding layers until you think you have it right. After dozens of antler repairs, I have learned not to try and get it all painted in one try. Adding one color at a time, then coming back after it's dry to add another color is what I found to work the best. Once I feel like I have the colors done to the best that I can get them, I spray the entire rack with a matte clear coat to create a protective layer on the newly painted areas, and so that there is an even sheen from the repaired parts to the original parts of the antlers. It's important to protect the skull from overspray if you want it to remain free of any sheen. Here it is, all finished. Do you think you would be able to tell that it was repaired? Congratulations to this hunter on the buck of a lifetime. If you found this video entertaining or educational, click into my channel to check out all the other videos that I have out there. I appreciate your viewership, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.